It is returning to the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, that's IGAD. The return ends a 2-year freeze imposed after the regional bloc invited paramilitary commander to peace talks. Now, to unpack this for us, we are joined on the line by Dennis Munene, Executive Director of China Africa Center at the Africa Policy Institute. Dennis, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hello?
Hi, Dennis. Are you there?
I'm good. Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Can
great
you hear me?
stuff. Yes, we can. Loud and clear.
Thank you.
Now, Dennis, thank you for joining us. Now, what does Sudan's decision to return to IGAD tell us about the current state of the conflict and what has changed?
One of the things that it's a good news for basically the Horn of Africa, for IGAD to return back to for Sudan to return back to IGAD. This is because we've seen a lot of humanitarian crisis within the country. And so with its return, it gives us hope that there's that aspect for the leaders, both from the Sudan Armed Forces and also for the Rapid Support Forces, to be able to come together and have dialogue and to ensure that they put the people first and not their own personal interests, but to ensure that we bring peace and sanity in that country that have been ravaged with war and so much humanitarian crisis. And this is something that some of us who really watch careful and be able to monitor what's happening within the Horn of Africa, we applaud the government of Sudan for taking this bold step to return back to this regional bloc that basically provides mechanism for conflict resolutions, ensure that there's that platform for disaster management, and basically bring the regional integration back. And that's something that we do applaud and applause the government of Sudan for taking that bold initiative.
Now, the question is this symbolic, or does Sudan's return signal greater willingness to engage in inclusive negotiations?
I think it's more of it showing that it has that aspect of wanting to negotiate. Because one of the things that you look at in terms of conflict, there's a part of stalemate where it reaches where there's no loser or winner in this case. And basically, it's now the aspect of looking at the interest of the people. And right now, we've seen there's a lot of humanitarian crises. Young children are starving, and many people have lost their lives. And so, this is now the aspect where they are coming back to the negotiating table to be able to ensure that they give dialogue an opportunity to be able to solve the issues that are happening in Sudan.
And how important is IGAD as a mediator, I beg your pardon, compared to other actors like the AU, that's the African Union, Egypt, or even Saudi Arabia? And what leverage does it have realistically over Sudan's warring parties?
For the importance of IGAD, the 8-member regional bloc, whereby you find countries like Djibouti, which are in place, you find Ethiopia, you have Kenya, there's Somalia, there's South Sudan, there's Uganda. For Eritrea, still their case is still on suspension. And so this is a very key platform for Sudan to be able to use, especially to state its case. And basically for it, it's within actors who understand the conflict properly, you know and first, even before we go to the AU, we have to also to give platform some of these regional blocks to be able to solve some of these issues that are cutting within the boundaries. And this is very critical, because out of that you get to ensure that you have key people and the main actors. And because we find that within also not just Sudan, also South Sudan have been able to be affected by this conflict because of the spillover of some of the refugees and displaced people. And so when these people are able to talk together, they all feel the pain. They have all been affected by the conflict in Sudan. And so they can be able to offer credible and alternative solutions to what's happening. When you look at these other parties that are there, they're also equally important. But yet again, IGAD happens to be able to be, it was founded and has the right mechanism and the right tools to be able to ensure that we have a peaceful resolution for what's happening in Sudan to be able to ensure that they can be able to spearhead long-term stability within the country and basically be able to ensure that there's that aspect of shared security and also deal with some of the development challenges, because this war has been able to basically damage a lot of infrastructure development in Sudan and also part of also South Sudan. And so with IGAD taking the mandate and be able to lead this resolution is very key and will be more effective than having other bodies deal with it.
Let's look at the next 6 months. What would success be like for IGAD?
I think one is just bring the two warring groups together. That's the fundamental thing that needs to be done. The second thing is for IGAD to be able to push for humanitarian support in South Sudan, because that's one of the things that is really hurting the region. You'll find that children are dying out of starvation. You'll find children are going to school. There's issues of challenges of health crisis in Sudan. And so these are the things that IGAD has really pushed, ensure that it brings not only just the regional bodies and also other countries, but also bring international community to be able to offer support and be able to deal with the issues of humanitarian crisis, be able to ensure that there's food, there's proper healthcare system, be able to restore some of the critical infrastructures that are supposed to enable the proper running of the government, and also basically at the end of the day to ensure that there is peace that is needed, because where there's no peace, there's no development. And so that's one of the things that we're going to see in the next 6 months, the leadership of IGAD and also the countries within the IGAD, that are going to have a lot of work to be able to ensure that you bring both the leaders of Sudan Armed Forces and also the Rapid Support Forces, but more so to ensure that their fundamental aim is to ensure that humanitarian crisis has been sorted out in Sudan. That's one, because if we don't do that, again, also remember, we're also having another problem in South Sudan. And also, again, there's the issues of Somalia. So we need to ensure that we get to solve these humanitarian crises in Sudan as soon as possible.
And speaking of the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, what should the Sudanese people expect with the results
Uh,
of this return?
well, one of the things that one is that their voices will have a platform to be able to be heard. And this is the beauty of having these regional blocks and being part of it, is that you have a platform where you can be able to share your issues and that can be able to be amplified to other regions. And so the people of Sudan are going to see the aspect of the negotiations, especially for the issue of humanitarian aspect, where there'll be distribution of food. There's the issue of putting proper mechanism for the healthcare systems that have been destroyed in Sudan, to be able to ensure that every area, whether in Darfur or across the region, that you can be able to have that proper care that is needed, and ensure that we reduce the loss of life that we've seen. Millions of people have lost their lives for quite for the last 2 or so years when this war began. And
Yeah.
so this is something that we'll end up be able to ensure and be able to ensure that there's peace and security in that region.
Dennis, thank you for your time. That's where we'll leave it for today.
Thank you very much.
That was Dennis Munene, Executive Director of China Africa Center at the Africa Policy Institute, joining us on the line.
Be inspired. Stay informed.